How much money are you actually saving when you buy that cheaper phone charger, those discount running shoes, or that bargain laptop? We've all been there, standing in the store comparing two nearly identical products with wildly different price tags. And almost every time we convince ourselves that the cheaper option is the obvious choice. After all, why pay twice as much for something that does exactly the same thing? But here's the problem with that logic. Those cheaper goods aren't just lighter on your wallet in the short term. They're systematically making your entire life more expensive in ways you probably haven't even considered. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly how this works, why it's getting worse, and most importantly, what you can do about it. But first, let me give you some context that will completely change how you think about every purchase you make. The relationship between price and actual cost isn't what most people think it is, and understanding this difference could literally save you thousands of dollars every year. Now, before we dive into the economics behind all of this, there's something you need to know. This isn't just about buying cheap products that break quickly. That's the obvious part that everyone already understands. What we're talking about goes much deeper than that. The real cost of cheaper goods shows up in places you'd never expect, and it's been quietly reshaping how we live, work, and spend money for decades. Let's start with the most deceptive part of this whole equation. When you buy something cheap, you're not just buying a product. You're buying into an entire system that's designed to keep you spending more money over time. Think about it like this. That $20 phone charger you bought instead of the $60 one isn't just a charger. It's a subscription to replacing phone chargers every few months for the rest of your life. But the replacement cost is actually the smallest part of the problem. The real expense comes from what economists call opportunity cost, and it's absolutely brutal when you start to add it all up. Every time that cheap charger stops working, you're not just out the cost of a new one. You're paying with your time to research replacements, drive to the store, wait for shipping, and deal with the frustration of a dead phone at the worst possible moment. Now multiply that across every cheap product in your life. The shoes that need replacing twice as often, the laptop that crashes during important meetings, the kitchen appliances that break just outside their warranty period. Each one of these purchases creates what I call a maintenance tax that you'll be paying for years without even realizing it. Here's where it gets really interesting though. The companies making these cheaper products know exactly what they're doing. They've figured out the precise sweet spot where something is cheap enough to get you to buy it, but expensive enough to make a profit when you have to keep replacing it. It's not accidental that your cheap headphones last just long enough for you to forget how frustrated you were the last time they broke. This creates a trap that millions of people fall into without even knowing it exists. You think you're being financially responsible by choosing the cheaper option, but you're actually signing up for what amounts to a payment plan that never ends. And unlike a traditional payment plan, this one gets more expensive over time because prices keep going up, while the quality of these disposable products often gets worse. The psychology behind this is fascinating and terrifying at the same time. We're hardwired to focus on immediate costs rather than long-term expenses. When you're standing in that store looking at two products, your brain is doing simple math. $60 versus $20 equals $40 saved. But that's not the real equation. The real equation includes replacement costs, opportunity costs, frustration costs, and something most people never consider: the compound effect of all these small financial decisions. What's even more concerning is how this pattern has expanded beyond individual products into entire categories of spending. Cheap furniture that needs replacing every few years, budget cars that require constant repairs, discount clothing that falls apart after a few washes. Each category follows the same playbook, and each one is quietly draining money from your budget in ways that traditional financial advice completely ignores. The numbers on this are staggering when you actually sit down and calculate them. The average household now spends significantly more money replacing cheap goods than they would have spent buying quality items in the first place. But because these costs are spread out over time and mixed in with regular expenses, most people never notice the pattern. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about personal finance anymore. The entire economy has restructured itself around this model of planned obsolescence and perpetual replacement cycles. Companies that used to compete on durability and reliability now compete on who can make the cheapest product that looks good enough to fool you at the point of sale. This shift has created what I call the illusion of affordability, where everything appears cheaper than it used to be, but your total spending keeps climbing year after year. Think about how this plays out in real life. Your grandmother probably bought a washing machine once every 20 years. You're probably on your third one in the last decade. Her refrigerator lasted for decades. Yours might make it to the end of its warranty if you're lucky. The sticker price on these appliances might be lower when adjusted for inflation, but the total cost of ownership has skyrocketed because you're essentially renting these products from manufacturers who designed them to fail. This gets even more insidious when you realize how it affects your financial planning. Traditional budgeting advice tells you to account for big purchases like cars and appliances as one-time expenses that you can spread out over many years. But when these items are designed to break down regularly, they become recurring monthly expenses disguised as occasional purchases. Your budget looks balanced on paper, but you're constantly getting hit with unexpected replacement costs that throw everything off track. The ripple effects extend far beyond your bank account too. All this constant replacing and upgrading creates a massive environmental burden that ultimately gets passed back to consumers through higher taxes, increased insurance premiums, and rising costs for everything from waste management to raw materials. You're not just paying for your own cheap goods, you're subsidizing everyone else's disposable lifestyle through higher costs across the entire economy. But here's where it gets really twisted. The people who can least afford quality goods are the ones who get trapped in this cycle the most severely. If you have limited cash up front, you're forced into buying the cheaper option even when you know it won't last. This creates what researchers call the poverty tax, where being poor is literally more expensive because you can't afford to buy things once you end up spending more money over time precisely because you don't have enough money to begin with. Meanwhile, wealthy people can afford to buy high-quality items that last for decades, which means their cost per use drops dramatically over time. A rich person buys expensive boots once and wears them for 20 years. A poor person buys cheap boots every year and ends up spending 5 times as much for inferior products. The system is designed to keep people in different economic classes paying different prices for the same basic needs. The most frustrating part about all of this is how it's accelerated in recent years. What used to be a problem mainly with obviously cheap products has now spread to mid-range and even premium brands. Companies have discovered they can charge premium prices for products with built-in obsolescence, giving you the worst of both worlds. You pay high-end prices for products engineered to fail, just like the cheap ones. This trend has been supercharged by the subscription economy, where companies have figured out how to turn one-time purchases into recurring revenue streams. Your car now requires software subscriptions to use basic features. Your printer holds your documents hostage unless you buy their overpriced ink cartridges. Even your morning coffee maker wants to lock you into their proprietary pod system that costs more per cup than going to a coffee shop. The psychological warfare being waged here is sophisticated and relentless. Companies spend billions of dollars studying exactly how to make you feel like you're getting a deal while extracting maximum revenue over time. They've gamified the shopping experience, making you feel smart for finding discounts and sales, while the entire system is designed to separate you from more money than ever before. Understanding this dynamic completely changes how you should think about every purchase decision. So, what can you actually do about all of this? The answer is simpler than you might think, but it requires a complete shift in how you approach spending. Instead of asking yourself how much something costs, start asking how much it's going to cost you over time. Calculate the true price per use. Factor in your time, your frustration, and the hidden expenses that come with constantly replacing things. When you start thinking this way, paying more upfront becomes an investment rather than an expense. That expensive phone charger that lasts 5 years is actually cheaper than buying 4 cheap ones that break every year. Those quality shoes that cost 3 times as much but last 10 times longer are the real bargain. The premium appliance with a 20-year lifespan makes the budget version look like financial suicide. But here's the most important part. You don't have to change everything at once. Pick one category where you've been trapped in this cycle and break free from it. Buy one quality item that you know you'll use regularly and watch how much money you save over the following months. Once you see the difference, it becomes easier to make these decisions across other areas of your life. The companies counting on you to stay trapped in this system are betting that you won't figure this out. They're betting that you'll keep focusing on sticker prices instead of real costs. They're betting that you'll keep falling for the same tricks that have been separating people from their money for decades. Don't let them win. Your wallet will thank you.